As we do this work, there are typically some real challenging emotional barriers that present themselves, which typically really interfere with being able to fully validate an emotional experience, a trauma, or to go into it. Some of the core experiences that oftentimes come up, and again you see that fear is at the bottom of these experiences, will be shame. One would be shame, just being very ashamed of the experience, of what happened, the feeling, the sensations. Will be denial. It's not that important, or, what I have to complain about. And the other would be self-blame. Well, it was all my fault. I just shouldn't have done that. It's all my fault anyway. All of those experiences keep us from validating ourselves. They keep us from going into our experience. They're mechanisms to keep us safe. They don't really keep us safe, but our mind creates them to believe that they're keeping us safe. Basically, it's safeguarding us from the emotional experience. From there, you typically go up to anger and hurt. Sometimes anger can be a real foundational barrier. A lot of times it's not okay to be angry. We've learned that it's not okay to have a voice, so letting anger out can be very challenging. Typically anger and hurt. Shame becomes pretty powerful. You'll move into shame and then fear. And then after you can move through the majority of those, you'll move up to the acceptance, the integration. Now this is the same with an adult as it is with a child. There's not much difference. There's not much difference from what I do with an adult to what I do with a child, what I would have the parent to create for the child. So a lot of these same experiences will occur. Now children aren't as likely to feel the self-blame. Depending on the age of the child, adolescents will more likely be in denial. Small children, you're not typically going to deal with that. Shame, yes. Children hurt, absolutely. But children are not as likely to be resistant in their fear. Children, when the environment for the parent can be created, are a lot more likely to be able to express themselves because they're more emotional. It's the adults that have difficulty expressing themselves. They run into more of these core barriers, and all of our ultimate goal is acceptance and integration. Now I use a process called dyadic regulatory therapy, which is generally when working in the context with two people, but it can even be between the therapist and the client, the therapist and the patient, and it involves touch. I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like because there have been many misconceptions around holding therapies, around holding in general. There's lots of anxiety, lots of fear around that. And so I want to demonstrate that from a family-centered regulatory approach and show you some of the differences and the distinctions, and also why I operate in a certain way as opposed to a different way. What's as important as the dyadic process, the holding process that I'm going to show you, is the ability to hold emotionally. Now there's holding someone physically and there's holding someone emotionally. It is as important to hold someone emotionally as it is to hold them physically. And it can be more important to hold them emotionally than even to hold them physically. Because if you cannot hold a person emotionally, meaning have the emotional flexibility and window of tolerance to accept their emotions and to allow them to feel safe in their expression as you accept them, then you really don't have any business holding them physically. Because if you're holding someone physically and you can't hold them emotionally, you're going to be overwhelmed, both as a therapist and as a parent. And so this is why I always start the parents with their process first, because before they can engage their children in any way that will hold them emotionally to permit them to hold them physically, they have to have a comprehension of that themselves. They have to know what they're bringing to the therapeutic environment. So without that, then I would never have, without a mom or dad doing their own work first, I would never have them hold their child. Very important. And the level of work that mom and dad do will be the level of work, not to the same intensity oftentimes, but that their child will do. The level of work that mom and dad's not willing to do will be the level of work that the child won't be able to do. So if a parent has not done their own work, they would not engage in any kind of holding with their children because they're emotionally not aware of what they're bringing to the table and also what's being asked of them, what they're asking of their child. And a lot of times we say to someone, well, tell me how you feel. And we don't realize that oftentimes when we make that statement to someone, we are asking them to bare their soul to us. We don't understand that. The power of that. To really lay it out there. It's what you're asking them. So it's no wonder why a lot of times people don't express how they feel. How they really feel. So the power of the dyadic regulatory process is that it creates powerful change via all the sensory pathways. Through touch. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this in a moment. It creates touch. We are engaged in eye contact. We're engaged in smell. We're engaged in temperature. We're engaged in sound. All of those direct pathways being activated at the same time, according to Fraser Mustard with the Canadian Institute of Advanced Research, says when combined, the 5 sensory pathways create a very powerful brain-altering effect. Very important, because when we're not engaging these sensory pathways, then we're diminishing our ability to fully influence and have an impact on the brain. But when we can engage them, it becomes very powerful. And the reason touch is so important is because your skin is the largest sensory organ of your whole body. It weighs almost 18 pounds. When you are touched, you feel it. Your brain feels it. And it can be just a little touch. And you feel that. And that touch can resonate with you for days. Someone just touching you. Days later, you can still feel that touch. And that's the power of that sensory activation. Now, I want to establish some very important principles around this work. This technique, because it's really all this becomes, is a technique. What I'm going to model for you is not confrontational. Because if it's confrontational, it creates more stress, it creates more fear. You can't create attachment by creating more fear. You can't overcome fear by creating more fear. It's very important. It's not aggressive, because a lot of aggressive acts become threatening and become fearful. It's not blaming, because if it's blaming, it's reactive, it's not supportive. And it's not fear-based, because you can't overcome fear by creating more fear. What it is supportive, encouraging, passionate, empowering, and love-based. The only way you can be in this place, though, is if you've done the work yourself first. If you've not done the work yourself first, you will freeze up when it comes to providing these things, because you will come back to fear. You will move back into fear. And what's very important is a lot of times the passion. The passion. We live in a very passionless society where we don't have a lot of passion because we're in survival and we're constricted so often that there's not enough in emotional energy and emotional space to be passionate. But sometimes it takes passion to move someone. It takes passion to let someone actually feel like they can be felt. To actually feel like someone can feel you. It takes passion. But fear prevents that a lot of times. We don't allow ourselves to let go. And passion requires a letting go. It requires that risk of being willing to let go, to be vulnerable. So a lot of times the first person really working is the person doing the holding. Opening themselves up enough to be able to encourage and be passionate about the other person opening up. Any therapy that's confrontational, that's aggressive, threatening, blaming, or fear-based will ultimately not be effective for creating healing environments for attachment-challenged children, because it's going to create more fear. It's going to create more fear. So what I'd like to do now is I want to model for you what the dyadic process looks like. And I'm going to do this. I have Some wonderful people have come to model for us. Of course, they're very nervous. But what I want to say also is that as therapists, I do not encourage you to move into trying these techniques, to doing these techniques, to engaging other people into them until you've had more experience for yourself, because they can be overwhelming. You are dealing with the emotional. You're moving out of the cognitive, so you're dealing in the emotional where there's a lot of fear. So you really have to be understanding of this process. You have to be knowledgeable of this process, because this has the potential to really take people to deep places very fast. Okay, so I'm going to have Linda and Brooklyn. Will the two of you come up here? Now, first of all, again, I want to reiterate this as much as possible. I would not do any work with Brooklyn and her mother unless I had spent time with Linda first. Okay? Because I have spent time with Linda. I know the work that Linda's already done, then I would move in at this point to working with Linda and Brooklyn in a very emotional way, because I know the work she's done. So I know that she has the ability, capability, she possesses the framework of understanding to be able to do it. But if I hadn't worked with her, then she wouldn't possess the framework to really understand what it is she's asking of her child. So I wouldn't do that. So after I had worked with Linda for a period of time, and with her husband, he's not here this evening, but I would have worked with him, and I want to model that also for you, a husband and wife. I would have Linda come in, and Brooklyn, I'm going to have you lay across your mom's lap. Come all the way up. There you go. Let's put this arm behind mom's back. You're going to face mom. There you go, all the way over. This arm behind mom. Thank you. Just like this. This is where I would start. This would be the process. I mean, this is the dyadic regulatory technique. Just creating this. Right now, I'm creating eye contact, which is a sensory pathway. I'm creating touch. I'm creating temperature. I'm creating smell. And I'm going to be creating sound. Because the process is going to be engaged right here between the two of them. And as I said, the first work is going to be with Linda. And as you notice, because I'm very comfortable, and because I know Linda, but I would do this regardless, because I'm comfortable, is I touch Linda often. Why do I do that? To create some security for her. To create some soothing. So she can relax, because that's the process. I'm going to say, Mom, take some deep breaths. Breathe in. Just relax. I said, Mom. Okay, I didn't say Brooklyn. I said, Brooklyn, I know this can be a little scary, because it could be a little uneasy. So I'm just going to have Mom breathe. And then as I have Mom start to breathe, I'm going to have her again let her know that, Mom, this is scary for you. It's scary for Brooklyn. It's not something that the two of you typically do. And I'm going to say, Mom, tell Brooklyn a little bit about how you've been feeling. And she's going to start to tell Brooklyn about how she's been feeling. Because remember, Mom has already done her work. Because Mom has done her work, she's not going to start ripping into Brooklyn saying how angry she is that she's not been behaving. She's going to say, I've been feeling stressed. I've been feeling sad. I've been feeling really scared that I'm not being the parent that I want to be for you. And I need you to tell me how you feel, how you've been feeling. Now, let's say we're doing this work, and all of a sudden, Brooklyn, so I want you to play the actress for me. I want you to start to struggle and say, let me go, Mom.
Let me go, Mom.
Okay, hang on a minute. Now, traditionally, parents have been instructed to not let go. Say, let me go, Mom.
Let me go, Mom.
Mom traditionally is instructed, hold on. Tell her that you're in charge, that you can be in control. Go ahead and tell her that, Mom. I'm in charge.
I'm in charge.
Mom, let me go. Go ahead, tell her again.
Mom, let me go.
Now, what's this creating for Brooklyn? Stress. What's it creating for Mom? Stress. So what we want to do is when Brooklyn says, let me go, Mom, go ahead.
Let me go, Mom.
Mom, go ahead and let her go. Go ahead and set up, Brooklyn. It's all right. You can scoot on down there if you don't want to be close to Mom. That's okay. Because, and this is where I want to acknowledge Brooklyn. I want to validate her. It's kind of scary laying there in Mom's arms, especially if things haven't been too good at home. Probably doesn't feel too good. How was that making you feel? You can make it up. Angry. It makes me angry. I didn't want to do it.
It makes me angry.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to do it either. Because sometimes it can be really scary. But what I want to help you and your mom do, Brooklyn, is I want to help the two of you feel closer. And I think that's what your mom wants to feel too. Is that true, Mom?
Yes.
Will you tell Brooklyn that that's what you want to do? Do you want to feel closer?
I want to feel closer with you.
She said, all right. She didn't have to. I didn't model that. So she says, all right. So I might say, depending on the resistance, I might say, well, Brooklyn, let's try it again for a few minutes. And I'll keep the clock. And in a few minutes, if you're not comfortable, you can get up again. So what did I just do? I created safety for her. I'm empowering her. She doesn't have to feel disempowered. The only reason a child will not be held by their parent is because they feel too scared. And when a child feels too scared, they won't be held by their parent. So I want to create that safety. And I want to say, Mom, tell her, it's okay. Tell her you really want this. Because a lot of times the child will look at the parent and will say, you don't really want to do that. So for the parent to really say, I really want to do this. So that would kind of be the process. And again, you do it because what if we're working just straight traditional therapy? Where's the touch? Where's the eye contact? Where's the temperature change? Where's the smell? Who are they listening to right now? To me. I'm losing all of the sensory opportunities. But again, this can be a really intense process. Really intense. So I'm not going to create this dynamic until Mom has a framework for what I'm asking her to do. Because if she doesn't have a framework for what I'm asking her to do, then she's not going to be able to understand where it is she's asking her child to go. What it is she's asking to take her child into. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. Kathy?
If Dad were here, where would he be?
If Dad were here, Roy, come here. This is not Dad, using a fake dad. Brooklyn, will it be okay if Roy sits close to you? Okay? Let's say that Mom and Dad have done their work. Brooklyn, I'm going to have you come back in your mom's lap. Just like you were.
Put your feet up.
And Dad, I'm going to have you come a little closer. Just supporting Mom and just supporting Brooklyn. That's where Dad would be. Right there. He's engaged in the process, but Dad's main role at this point is to support Mom so she can support and do what she needs to do with Brooklyn. Because after Mom and Brooklyn have engaged, then I may engage Brooklyn and Dad. And then Mom would shift places. Because see, Dad's a part of this too. Dad has emotions too. He has feelings too. So he wants this connection just as much. So that's where Dad would be if Dad were to be in the process as well. Okay? All right. I think that's it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just really want to model. Yes. Good. Thank you. If I had a mom and a dad and I was just doing some couples work, what would that look like? So what I do, I'm going to have Roy come back up here. I hope Roy signed that consent. And Debbie, you come up here. Go ahead and have a seat, Roy. If I had a mom and a dad come in for a session, it'd be typical, right? Absolutely. Very, very good. What's the first thing I have to do as a therapist? I have to breathe. This is a lot of tension here. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to, same process. I want to start to ask them what's going on, just like you would a therapeutic process. And maybe Mom's over there, and so I say to Mom, what's going on? Okay.
It's all about him.
This is not an actual couple, okay?
I go into character too easily.
Yeah. What I will say, what I don't want, where I don't want to go, is that it is almost impossible not to be who you are, even in a role play. Especially in this way of working, because it's emotional. Okay? So, Mom, I'm validating Mom. Mom's telling me the story. I say, Mom, I can tell that you feel really upset. Are you angry? Do you feel angry?
I'm hurt.
You're feeling hurt. Okay. All right. Dad's feeling helpless and hopeless and all of those kind of things.
Can't please her.
Can't please her.
Not a thing I can do.
All right. So then what I want to do, which becomes really scary for the therapist, is I want to say, first of all, I want to empower them. I want to say, well, what do you guys want to do? Do we want to spend another 8 weeks in therapy, or do we really want to get into this? And it's up to you guys. We can get into this and we can move as fast as you want to move, because I like to go really fast. And I like to get really deep into the stuff just as soon as possible and not waste your time and not waste my time. Or do we need to spend some time? You guys feel like I really need to understand all these issues you've been going to therapy for the last 5 years? It's up to you.
I don't want to rehash the same stuff again.
Didn't work then. It probably wouldn't work now if we just
Okay.
talked about it.
Dad says he doesn't want to rehash the same stuff. Mom says it didn't work then. We just talked about it. So what I'm going to say is, okay. Mom, come here and get in Dad's arms. You see a face? That's a real face. That's a real face. She's saying, what? What are you talking about? Come on, Mom. Come over here. Dad, you're going to just hold Mom in your arms. Mom, lay across Dad's lap facing him. Go ahead. She's really doing this because they were not prepared, but they gave me permission. Mom, just relax yourself right there. Very important as it regards couples work, but also parent-child work. Dad is holding Mom. If Mom has her arm out here, then unconsciously what it's messaging is you can't really take it. You can't really keep me safe. So Dad's going to hold Mom here. I'm going to go to the same process that I'll basically demonstrate with Linda and her daughter. Same emotions, working in emotions. And at this point, you don't have a really framework for emotional work, which we're going to get to a little bit more emotional work in a moment. But I do this process with Mom and Dad. And then, Mom, go ahead and raise up. After they'd done some work, which they'd be feeling much better at this point, then I may wait a session or the same there we go. Magic. Magic.
Fast.
Fast. In the same session, I may have Mom, go ahead and switch, hold Dad. Another area where therapists become very frightened. How can I ask my father to be held by my mother? And that's exactly what it is. How can I ask my father, who was big and scary, because as a child he was big and scary, how can I ask him to be held by my mother? But that's the challenge that I have to face as a therapist. Because if I can't confront and face that challenge myself, then I can't take them here. Again, we're activating all the sensory pathways, and yes, there are issues that you want to take into consideration. Okay, Dad, go ahead and raise up. He's getting too comfortable, I could tell. He's going to doze off. There are issues, domestic violence issues, sexual abuse issues, all of those kind of issues, which at any point in time, I can separate them and work with them individually as adults. I wouldn't do that with a child. I wouldn't separate the parent and then work with the child individually. I would have the child left at home and then work with the parent until the parent could establish their framework. And then I would have the child brought back in. So at any time the violence or whatever comes up, I'll separate the two. Work with them individually to kind of get a framework for where they're coming from, help them establish a greater framework, continue to empower them. What do you want to do? Do you really want to have something different, or do you want to keep doing the same thing? Because this really is your process. This is not about me. This really is your process. And if you're not really committed to this process and invest in this process, we need to explore why you aren't, because then we may help you get to that place, but you always got to put that out there. Okay? Thank you, guys. Question?
Would it be helpful to know beforehand whether or not there was any domestic violence or any sexual abuse?
The question was, would it be helpful beforehand if there was any domestic violence or any sexual abuse? Yes, it would be helpful, but a lot of times those things aren't going to come out on the psychosocial evaluation. Those things won't come out until you get into the work. So we have to really look at that. Okay? What I want to do now is go a little bit more into the process. So we've role modeled kind of what it looks like. Now I'm going to go a little bit more into the process. I have a couple ladies who have volunteered very courageously to come and do a little bit of work. So we're going to do a little bit of that work. And again, I want to say that I wouldn't work with someone to the intensity that I'm going to work with these two ladies, wherever it is that they go, without knowing that they don't have a therapist that they can go to and look to if they have any residual effects. But for the most part, we will go through all the way through the process, create some processing, some integration. When you do that, you don't leave people feeling wide open. You leave them feeling wide open, but also with the ability to not be afraid of what they're feeling. And that's very important. Take a deep breath, Julie. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Why don't you just scoot back a little bit? I'm going to scoot a little closer. Keep breathing. Now, as we do this work, you can stop at any time, okay? If emotions get too overwhelming, just we can slow down, back up, do whatever we need to do. Okay, this is your process. Do whatever you need to do with this process. What is it that you're struggling with?
Well, I'm a recovering addict. I've been clean 16 months. I've been in inpatient treatment for 14 months now, Eagle Ridge for 10 of those. And I have a son who a couple of months ago had come on the unit who has some issues, some behavioral problems, and recently he was, Friday, as a matter of fact, so it's very raw for me right now, was put in residential inpatient for a duration of 6 months, roughly. I think for me, I've been felt very heavy with sadness and fear.
How old is he?
He's just turned 7.
Go ahead and put your hands back up there. Breathe out that heaviness and that sadness. Keep going. How do you feel about that?
Sad and afraid.
I feel sad and afraid.
I feel sad and afraid.
Keep breathing into it. Go ahead and put a sound to that. Go ahead and put a sound to that. That's it. That's it. I got you. You're doing good. Come on. Breathe into that heaviness. Breathe into that heaviness. Stay with it. What's going to happen? What are you afraid is going to happen?
I'm afraid I can't be the parent he needs me to be, like my parents weren't for me. I'm afraid when he wakes up that I won't be there for him.
That's it. Go ahead, give into that. And then what?
He'll be alone and afraid and scared and feel abandoned. And I know what that feels like, and it hurts.
That tension you feel in your chest right now, breathe into that. Breathe into that. Put a sound to that hurt. It's like a big ball. Go ahead. Come on. Stay right here. I've got you. I know what that hurt feels like. Say it.
I know what that hurt feels like. I know what that hurt feels like.
That's it. Keep going. Honor that feeling. Honor that feeling. It's pretty overwhelming, isn't it?
It is. It feels very deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's little.
Yeah. Say he's just 7. He's just 7 years old.
He's just...
That's it. Keep going. He doesn't have his mommy.
He doesn't have his mommy.
Let's go down a little bit. Right there. Come on. Let it out. Let it out. That's it. There you go. Come on. Come on. That's it. Come on. All the way. That's it. I wanted to be a better parent than I had.
I want to be a better parent. I want to be there for him when he needs me.
So afraid.
Oh, I'm afraid. And I know he's afraid too.
No, he's afraid too.
I know he's afraid too.
And you're angry about that. You're angry that he's not with you.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me your hands. Let me have some of that anger.
I have trouble getting angry.
Yeah. Yeah. What's gonna happen if you're angry?
I don't know. When I was little, I got locked in my room when I was angry.
Oh. Wow. So it wasn't okay to be angry?
No.
How long did you get locked in your room?
sometimes the rest of the night.
How would you feel in there, locked in your room all by yourself?
I was mad. There were
Yeah.
holes in the walls. And afraid and alone. Very helpless. Powerless.
Now your son's gonna be feeling the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe so.
Tell me about that feeling. What's that feeling? To see something in your face. What is that?
I don't know. It's just, I feel afraid for me, for him.
You feel pissed off.
I do. I can't give him what he needs. That I'm not there for him, that I can't be there for him right now, and I want to be. I think he needs me right now. I needed my parents.
Sure he does. And I'm not there.
I'm not there.
I'm not there.
I'm not there.
Honor that anger. Tell me you can't take it. Tell me that I can't take it.
But I can't take the anger.
Tell me that I can't take it.
That
Say you can't take
it.
my anger.
You can't take my anger.
Yeah. Tell me it's not okay to be angry.
It's not okay to be angry.
Stay here. Where are you at? Tell me where you're at. You're having some feeling. What is that?
I don't know what it is.
What do
Feels
you feel
familiar,
right
but I don't
now?
know.
What do you feel right now?
Afraid.
Afraid. What are you afraid of?
I'm not sure. Seems like my anger has always sent people away.
Okay.
Like nothing good came of it.
Right. Right. So if you get angry right now, nothing good's gonna come of it. Maybe I'm gonna go away, send you away.
Maybe.
Yeah. Won't be here for you.
Well, that's what happened to my son.
He got angry and he got sent away. That's what always happened to you.
Yeah. I was the one in counseling that inconvenienced everybody, and I was the one legally emancipated when I was 17 because my parents couldn't handle it. And I don't want him to think that he's set away because I couldn't handle it.
It's really big anger. Scares you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I don't know what will happen.
Yeah. Tell me about that. You don't know what'll happen.
I have a big fear of the unknown. I like things to be planned and I like to be able to expect the outcome.
You like to be in control.
Yeah,
Yeah?
sometimes I do. A lot of times I
We
do.
do. All of us do when we're scared. We like to be in control. That's what you're doing right now. You're controlling that anger. I can see it come up in your face. I can see it in your eyes. Which you understand that there's fear underneath there. So you keep going back there, that you're afraid. But that anger is really big. And that anger is what's kept you safe. It's what's kept you safe, but it's so scary because it pushes everyone away and it gets you rejected and abandoned. So you don't want to honor that anger. You honor that fear and that sadness, but you don't want to be angry. Tell me, how does that sound?
That sounds really accurate.
Okay.
That's what everybody's told me that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more comfortable with the fear.
Yeah. But that anger is always right at the surface.
I haven't been able to express that. It's really difficult for me.
Breathe in. I'm so angry.
I'm so angry.
Look at me. Ask me if I'm going to go away if you get angry.
Are you going to go away if I get angry?
I'm not going away. Ask me if I'm going to send you away. Ask me if I'm going to send you away.
Are you going to send me?
I'm not going to send you away. I want you to be able to honor your anger and not keep locking yourself in that room. You keep locking yourself in that room. You're judging your own anger. So I'm so angry.
I'm so angry.
Where do you feel it in your body?
I feel it in my stomach.
Yeah, okay. Put your hands there. What's it look like? Give it a shape.
Shape.
Yeah, color. Shape, a color.
It's red and it's everywhere.
Ugh. Let me hear that. Ugh. That's it. That's it. We don't have to do it all. You don't have to do all of that anger. But you can start to own that anger. You can start to take control of that anger rather than anger having control of you. You can choose to scrape the surface of that anger. You can choose to go all the way into it if you want to. It's your anger. You deserve to be able to have it however you want to have it without locking yourself in a room, without being sent away. Say, but I was locked in the room,
I was locked.
and my son did get sent away,
And my son did get sent away.
and I did get sent away.
And I got sent away.
No one could take the anger,
No one could take the anger.
and I can't take it down.
I can't take it now.
Say it again, I can't take it now.
I can't take it now.
Breathe into that. Put a sound to that pain. That's good. That's good. Again. Come on. You're right there. Let's go again. Come on. I got you. I got you. Come on. Come on. Into your pain. Down here. From down here. Down here. Come on. So angry. Come on.
So angry.
That's it. Stay with it. Stay with it. Come on. Open your eyes. Tell me what you're thinking.
I'm thinking I don't want to be angry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be afraid of it.
Okay. It's a good place to be. It's a good place to be. It's a scary place to be. Because if you don't want to be afraid of it, then you also have to face the fear of everything it's connected to. And your son learns to be afraid of his anger too.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like your mom and dad were afraid of their anger,
Yeah, I believe that.
afraid of their feelings, so they had to lock you in your room with your feelings. Everyone's getting sent away. Just keeps going. Your son needs you to be able to be okay with your anger so you can be okay with his. So that can help him to be okay with his. Because you don't want him to get mad and strike out and hit when he has feelings,
No, I don't.
when other people have feelings. What's it feel like now down there in your stomach?
Matter not as heavy.
Yeah. All you did was honored it. That's it.
I believe that was the first time I've ever done that. I've always denied it.
She did is acknowledged it. That's a start. Yeah. It's a start. And you give yourself an opportunity to start letting some of that out. And when you let it out, you're just honoring it for what you felt. You're just saying to that little girl, you are so angry and no one let you be angry. I want to let you be angry now. Because when you don't let her be angry, she's going to be angry when she decides to be angry. And that's when you're feeling backed into a corner. Then you get angry. When you have to protect yourself, then you get angry. And that doesn't take away that hurt you feel for your son. That sadness and hurt is the same thing with anger. You have to honor it. It's the saddest thing in the world for a parent to have to send their child away. Right now, what's happening is what needs to happen. And that's not easy.
No, it's not.
But that's what needs to happen. Because even if he came home today, you wouldn't be in the place to be able to create the space for his anger. And the two of you'd be stuck in the same place. You have an opportunity to do some really hard work, and he doesn't have to stay there for 6 months. He doesn't have to be there for 6 months. You can do some really hard work, and then you'll be ready to transition that to him. And call him as often as possible.
I do.
Much as they'll let you.
Every day.
Every day. Every day. And you let him know it's not his fault. It's not his fault that no adults have been able to accept his feelings. Tell him you haven't been able to accept your own. Grandma and Grandpa couldn't accept yours. You've been hard to accept his. But you're going to work on it. And let him know it's okay for him to be scared too. Good. It's okay for you to be scared. All right? Breathe in. You'll be all right.
I believe that.
Good. Don't give up. Don't give up. You're not